Thank you.
Yeah, the
Okay, this is the
Russians
Wastewater Management District Commission. This is a special meeting with one topic to discuss the automatic water meter reading article in town meeting. And we are having this meeting because Wastewater Management District Commission should speak if their mind is to speak. And that's what we're trying to establish, whether or not we should speak and what our posture should be. And Mike and Tom are here to help us reach a decision.
Answer questions and try to talk
Answer
about some of
questions.
those things that came up the last time I was here by myself.
Yeah.
So at that time, just to review a little bit, Mike came to help us, give us information, and we had a number of questions on finances and protocol and stuff like that. And since that time, Mike and I have been exchanging messages, and I tried to summarize the stuff in the agenda item for tonight. And there's been some more information as well. I think Jane sent a link today of the happenings that were occurring in Lexington. Yeah. And they are actually, I don't know what the result was, but they had an article for their representative town meeting this spring.
Has that occurred?
April 3rd, it was early.
So,
Yeah, I don't know, hopefully they had success.
it
was a good presentation, you know, so if,
it's a good presentation if you like miles and miles and miles of economic scenarios dangled in front of people.
yeah, see, some towns, they like that. Some towns, I mean, where I was in Medway, they would love that. They would expect an 18-slide presentation on something like that. Here, you know, the slides are kind of restricted to just some, you know, pictures and photographs to, you know, to kind of keep the narrative going. So yeah, it depends upon what each town is different.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a specific rule. I mean, so the slideshow is a relatively recent vintage, and it's been used differently. And there have been some presentations where the main speaker to a motion has gotten up and shown lots of different slides, but it hasn't caught on. But what's happened in the past is there was a meeting before town meeting where there were slide presentations.
Yeah, the workshop.
So I know, for instance, the first time that Don Willett tried to put this through, there was a special meeting in the big hearing room, and it was probably pretty full,
Mm-hmm.
and they had probably a 10 or 12 slide presentation, and that was judged to have been not meeting the requirements of due diligence.
Mm.
And so,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I open the floor for questions and answers. I have sort of covered the bases that I think are important with Mike, and I'm on the pro side now.
yeah, so one of the questions that Fred had been asking
Mhm.
before is, you know, what exactly is required and versus suggested. And so you sent the link to this.
Yeah, that's
With
the
the
link
water
that Mike sent to
conservation
me,
standards,
which was a
sure.
DEP
Yeah,
position paper, I guess you might call it.
yeah,
A white
it's-
paper from a year ago.
yeah. And from what I read, as you had suspected, it was more in the line of a wish list rather than it doesn't have the force of law requirement. I mean, they say, you know, for example, you should do this as soon as possible, but as far as I could see in there was nothing spelled out saying
Are we
there
talking about
consequences.
the conservation standards?
Yeah.
Yeah, from the Office of Economic and Environmental Affairs, yeah. So that is a guidance document,
Yeah.
well thought out, revised in 18, and there are standards and recommendations. So the standards
Yeah.
talk about more frequent meter reading.
Yeah.
The recommendation is to, you know, do it with automated meter reading. That document is referenced in our Water Management Act permit, which is a mandate. You know, there is governance weight with that, and that's how the water department functions. It operates under that, and that's put out by the Mass DEP. In that permit, it specifically cites the conservation standards, and it also talks about in the unaccounted for water section and also the gallons per capita per day section that quarterly billing is to occur. So the
Time scale?
time scale. Well, the first permit was put out in 2010. We're operating and it's due to be renewed shortly.
2 years ago.
Yeah. So it's due to be renewed. So when we speak with the DEP, Dwayne Levangie is the guy in Boston that deals with this, he understands that this technology has been promoted in Wayland a number of times and just hasn't succeeded. So they understand that we're trying to do this. And there's a whole host of things that you have to do. This is just one of them. So as far as whether there's a mandate to do it, that guidance document is a standard, and it's highly suggested that if you're, operating, your system as you should be, these are the standards that you shall meet. The permit references it and says you will do this. And,
Yeah, but I guess the question that will be asked on town meeting floor is, and if you don't do it, will you not get the permit? And is there any consequence of not doing it? And
yeah. So I've unfortunately been subjected to when you don't meet DEP permits. And what they don't, it's not that they won't issue it, they'll administer an administrative consent order. And what you do is they say, now you're going to do this. And they don't care what it costs, they don't care. And I've built a lot of things underneath, an administrative consent order, and that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
That's what they'll do.
Well,
and
we
you're
too
better
are
off.
operating under an administrative consent order.
You know what they
and
are.
We know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
getting relief from the stipulations is pretty darn hard.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Paul Brinkman has been, talking with DEP on and off about the possibility of releasing us from that ACO.
Right, right.
Which we've essentially
Yeah.
proven.
Yeah, so that's the, and
Yeah.
that would happen too, but, so that's the repercussions that you'd face. And you'd rather do it this way when you've got much better control, you're, advancing something rather than having it kind of rammed down your throat.
I think that is something that we should prepare for. Prepare a simple answer like you provided.
Yeah, that's the,
So the,
I mean, those of us in the know that an ACO can be a burden, and I mean, strengthening. I mean, that was a very good statement, but strengthening that as well, the Wastewater Management District Commission could speak up as well if we feel that's a.
yeah, which you've been subjected to one, yeah.
Yeah.
and so then you also talked about the battery issue, and from the latest information I saw, that the batteries last
20 years.
20 years? Yeah, because I think in our first meeting, you had talked about batteries having to be periodically changed out, and we couldn't remember. We thought it was somewhere between every 2 and 5 years.
No, it is 20 years, and there's a guarantee. They'll replace them after 10 years, and then it's like a treadwear warranty. You still have to go out there and install them.
Install it, yeah,
But,
which was the concern of the cost.
The industry standards, if you look around at what people's claims are, and that's the claim you see.
So I did a rough calculation showing the cost, the necessary energy for transmitting and the necessary information for keeping a clock running. And I got similar amounts to the link that Mike sent me. So I'm confident that battery
Yeah.
technology is there. It's a question of whether the batteries can last. And
Yeah, well, they're warranted, so
Yeah.
it's,
yeah.
so it's not,
But most of
Yeah.
the sources too will tell you that it depends how often they transmit. And our plan is to transmit once a day. But you gentlemen asked about, well, what if we have some specially sensitive, building that we're trying to control and watch carefully for our own reasons? Can we read it more often? The answer was yes, we will be able to read it more often for you, we'll be able to transmit more often for you, but that'll mean the battery won't last as
Well,
long.
Yeah.
I think that's not right, and the
Really?
reason is that the maintenance, the clock that's running all the time consumes a lot more power than once a day
In the
transmission.
transmission.
Yeah, it's almost a factor of 1,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So-
then maybe it
so
wouldn't matter.
As long as the transmit power is within the spec that I found, then that is not the biggest burden on the batteries.
So just to kind of clear that technical, do you have, so can you remotely, I would guess there are one of two things that this would happen. Is one, that they're constantly out there with signal, and it's a question of how many times you go and pick up that signal, and the other, which you just implied, which I'm not convinced is correct, is that you can remotely ping it to transmit.
And you can.
That's the method of, one of two methods of operation, and the maintenance energy or power needed
Yeah.
to do that is very small.
Yeah, so basically, at some time you go, or you put something in the system which signals one or more meters. Can you do individual meters, or do you just say all meters please send?
So what you can do,
readings?
there's some really neat things you can do with this, and I've done it before. So going back to one, there's three things you can do. You can set up the program so that it reads every hour, sends a signal when you program it to send a signal. We get it back in the main building. Then you can also, from DPW program that unit to read and send every hour. You don't have to go out to the unit to do that. You can program that.
Yeah,
But you can also ping it yourself, what we call a force read, because if somebody, when they sell their home, you
Yeah.
have to do a final, you just,
Yeah.
send the, and I'm thinking you're probably familiar, Eversource, they do the same thing with with those. What I've done is, as far as water accountability and leak detection, is you'll actually valve off a section of the town, a neighborhood, close valves, so that you have water coming in one particular way. You can meter that water coming in, and then you can program the 140 homes that are in that particular district, and you can have it read at midnight, and then at 1 a.m. and at 2 a.m. You typically do it at night because you want to capture like the low flow period. So then you can see what the percentage, what you're producing and putting into that system, and also what's going through people's meters. Then you are able to to determine your water accountability. Then you can focus your leak detection efforts in the areas that are showing likeliness. So it's a real powerful tool.
It's like a material balance in a plant. If it doesn't add up, then you know the difference is
Yeah.
something you should be looking for.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
are there occasions when you do have leaks that don't show up as
absolutely.
wetness on ground?
Yeah, they go
Yeah.
straight down and,
So,
yep.
I mean, as Fred alluded, I'm very supportive of it. I'm pro-technology. Two questions just I wanted to just pose you, for my own learning rather than pose, is one, do we have any like a veto say in this? Probably not. So this is just because it doesn't really relate to us, right? This is all water.
It does.
So, in what way? I mean, this is all water meters, right? Not the sewage flow or anything, or it can be applied to that as well. Maybe.
Well, I see two immediate
So,
connections.
but in your proposal, is that also included that it will be implemented in those two, which I would love to learn from you. Part two of my question, if you can say, I mean, I mean, basically, because a lot of our surrounding towns have done it.
Mhm.
Have we got any feedback from Weston and Wellesley and Framingham right around here who have done it for several years?
I worked
And-
in those towns.
Yeah. I'm glad to do. So I would like to see their experience. What has been? I mean, why are we struggling with this so much? Looks like a lot of towns have already implemented successfully.
I
This
agree.
is the way to go. I
I
mean,
agree.
so I a little bit last meeting didn't have the previous meeting background, so I was a little bit on the pro side as Fred alluded. So the first part, what does wastewater had to do with this?
Yeah, so the first thing, the first of the two, is that you base your charges on that water meter. So that's how you get your revenue. And right now, we're, reading infrequently, and
Fair
by
enough.
having automated meter reading, your
Fair enough.
cash flow is gonna be, you know.
Fair enough, so we have a benefit from that reading as well, which is much more
Yeah,
timely and
absolutely.
accurate.
Well, we already have the quarterly reading.
Yeah, but if we
It's
wind up,
automated,
if we
yeah.
wind up advancing that, we'll be able to we're gonna be getting daily reads.
Sure.
So, it'll be
Okay.
quarterly billing, you can go to monthly billing if we
Got
decide
it.
to do that at
So
some
that's
future
one
point in
benefit
time.
for us, yeah.
And,
The other-
and we've had leaks. We've had toilets running
Yeah.
continuously.
That's my
And
second
earmark,
point.
I mean, pinpointing that leak in by using the water consumed.
So are
is a
you saying that we are
useful
going to be
quantity.
getting some leak statements monthly
Alerts.
or quarterly that, you know, this district, as you said, has certain issues?
Yeah,
or-
yeah, well, with the technology, and was promoted greatly, and what we're very interested in doing, is that we'll be able to set thresholds on what the expected
I
flows
trust
are.
that you've done your due diligence on technology and yeah, there are, I mean, that's what your job is, that's not our job. Right?
Yeah.
That's your job, and I'm trusting that you've done, you know, you've got a good team and there is a lot of experience here there around the town. There are various technologies, this is not rocket science, man, you know, these
Wow.
things are,
But,
everything is, you
Oh,
know.
it's radio science.
Yeah,
but in answer to your question about what does it mean to wastewater management district commission, if you folks have a couple of customers that may be causing you problems, and you would like to have very frequent knowledge of their water usage, we can provide that to you.
That's good. Now, also the part two of that, what it means is there any cost burden on us? That's the second part I wanted to ask you. Why? Because there is, you know, obviously you've done the financial math and your, you know, kind of payback period and all that. I trust you guys have done
so
a
you
wonderful
want, you want
job.
the real answer to that? Because right now you're getting it as a courtesy.
Right now, it doesn't cost you anything.
So there will be a cost.
No,
No.
no, but could somebody make the argument that you should be contributing?
Is that in the pipeline,
No.
politically or from
No,
your
this
guys'
is, this is being
perspective?
funded
Yeah.
from the
So-
retained earnings
So
of
we
the
have no
water.
impact other than benefits. Is that what you're saying?
I believe
Yeah.
that to be the case,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Then why we would say no?
Okay, so, well, let me continue
Yeah,
with my questions.
Yeah.
Not
That's
to be
fair.
a cheerleader. Okay, so following up what you were saying, like, so we have, of the entire town system of, you know, what do we have, like 4,000?
5,000 households.
5,000 households. And of those, some 140 or 150 of the meters are wastewater. You could, in theory, set up in those systems, you know, even if you don't have alarms for all 5,000, for those 140, in theory, we could put like their capacities
Yes,
in there,
You could
their flow
assign-
capacities in as alarms.
Yeah, right.
So we
We
could-
could set up an alarm for every single one of those accounts.
Every one of those accounts. So, for
Different.
example, it would, as soon as we saw a toilet flowing,
it would,
In town
it would
center.
trip, you know, on our screen, you would see that as an alert, and then we would have the ability to call that homeowner and say, listen, you know, we just got an alert on some, you know, anomaly
Yeah.
flow.
Or Luigi's Restaurant, or
Yeah.
someplace.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and now one of the other questions that came up as we were talking about it last month, the technology for transmitting the readings, I think Mike had said last time he was here, it was you know, essentially a proprietary network that we were putting this on. We weren't using like cell phone signals or anything.
We considered it, but I think the fixed network is the way the RFP would go out. It's our intention to put in a fixed network.
Fixed
product.
network, okay, and so then that was probably a missing cost from the proposal, because I assume that if it's a fixed network, then you would have to have like repeaters and
Yeah.
so forth, which would have attachment fees, because presumably you're gonna be putting them on utility poles.
Utility poles, we have a number of towers in town, we can put them on town buildings. You know,
Yeah.
So each one of the, when we put out the request for proposals, each one of the vendors that's gonna submit is gonna do a
How
propagation
many
study.
vendors are there that do this?
There's less than 5 or 6 that
And
are
in the
generally.
surrounding towns, like, is there a predominant vendor that has been?
No, you'll see that there's 3 or 4 or 5 that you'll see all over the place.
And you've done your sort of pros and cons of,
Yeah, with all the requests for
With the
proposals
proposals,
is
yeah.
significant. There's very direct and fine criteria that have to be met, and evaluation criteria that the evaluation
I'd
But
like
to
to, I'd like
answer
to
Rick's-
finish that.
Rick's question, though, was, are those costs included in
They are.
this?
Yes.
Okay,
The cost of the individual senders and the costs of the data collectors and the whole network system is included.
yeah,
Our
but,
our operational cost includes the cost of whatever space we need to
Yeah,
rent on poles.
okay, but so the, you know, depending on the power of the network, you know, so like, just for example, if you were doing 5G, which I understand, I don't know a whole lot of the technical stuff, but it's a very low powered network,
Mhm.
and, you know, there are going to be lots of receivers over the coming years mounted on poles, so I don't know if it's something more powerful than that, but do you have an idea of like how many of these receivers?
We had
or
one
repeaters?
vendor did a propagation study and said 3. They
3,
could do it with 3.
In North
3.
Reading, that is a similar size in odd topographies at Wayland, they had, what, I think 4 or 5?
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
So
that was-
probably
it's
not
not
more than
dozens.
5.
It's not done, okay,
Yeah.
because I thought if you're talking about, you know, if you're talking about in a geographically long town
Mhm.
with a lot of trees and hills and so forth, in order to get readings for the whole town, if you had to put up, say, you know, a dozen or, you know, even 2 dozen of these things on poles around town, there is an annual attachment fee to put those on the poles that you pay to whoever the pole owner is, and I believe
Right.
it is actually
It's Eversource for us. Yep, it is. Yeah, so that one vendor said 3, you know, I would anticipate there might be another one out there that says like 6, you know, 7, something. That's the order of magnitude that I'm expecting.
Yeah, I just know radio communications in tree-covered towns like this aren't,
Yeah, especially the northern end of town, that's where we have our, you know, as
Yeah.
far as our public safety frequencies and all of that, that's when we have the most difficulty.
yeah,
so what is your process? I mean, here is that you still have to go back to the town to ask for this?
So town meeting on Monday, well, actually Tuesday, this article is likely to be heard on Tuesday night.
I see.
So,
You just want everybody in support that?
Yeah,
the
I mean,
town
it's,
meeting case.
we want
Makes
you to be
sense.
comfortable with it, you know, where this is, you know, the 4th time perhaps that this has been brought forward, where we would be very glad to have a member of the board, you know, stand up at the pro microphone and talk about some of the things that we're talking about tonight and how, you know, you've met with us and you understand the technology, and we would very much
You
appreciate
saw
that.
the slides that from the Lexington. Did we go there? It was a good slides.
They were good slides.
Cross
But
out
I'm not sure, I was saying either, yeah, slides are, the moderator keeps it very tight
Yeah,
and
we
doesn't
need
like a
more
lot of
fans,
words,
yeah.
and,
Yeah.
so
But
we
if
do have,
Lexington did pass it, that would be a feather in your cap.
yeah, I'll find out, whether, they did, you know, like I said, Weston's a community that's implementing it right now, and
but they're
Framingham.
rich.
They're plenty leafy.
No, they're rich, they have
Yeah.
ceaseless, endless money. Yeah, okay. No, I mean, I feel better with that information.
The other thing that you asked us to do, which we have done, is to get serious about operational costs, and we had Tate and Howard give us a blow-by-blow, year-by-year, what to expect in terms of operational costs. And that's the last
3 and 4.
3 and 4, and maybe the last 3-4 pages of the slides. And what you're seeing here is even a more pessimistic presentation than what we're going to, at town meeting, we're going to talk about the cost to read versus the cost to read. This also includes a half a person doing just customer service. Because Tom's experience was that you don't just turn these things on, you end up having to spend time supporting the customers. So we built into this a half-time person to
Yeah.
help people.
You have done this in other towns, you just
Yeah.
said. Do you have an idea of how are, based on your estimates, I trust you've done a great job on those estimates, cost per household, if we do a unit measure and compare it with other towns, how does it compare? Can you put it together? That would be an interesting matrix to see
Mhm.
how your costs really compare, because that's what at the end of the day in the town, everybody will really, and how does it compare today with today's cost?
Yeah, but the first page addresses that completely, and.
Well, how does it compare with other towns?
Oh,
So I assume you've
that's, I don't know.
like fixed the formulas in this and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
formulas, the number of years the trucks were there,
Like,
Yeah.
let's
a
see,
whole
let's
bunch
see.
of
I mean,
things.
Yeah.
these are our
Things
neighboring towns,
tie out.
similar,
Yeah.
profiles.
If you'd like, I'd be happy to send you the spreadsheet
I-
itself.
Oh, no, we were looking at it and things didn't
Yeah,
add
I
up.
picked up on a couple of
And
things too,
that
so
will
those have been
give us a good
corrected.
idea whether
We've
this
actually
is solid.
put a lot more into
But
this since your last
Yeah.
viewing
The
of it.
fact that over 50% of the.
The last time
communities
we
have
saw
already
this, we had
adopted it
estimates for
is
operating
evidence
costs.
that
Now
it's
we have,
working already.
Yeah.
Oh,
Year by
communities
year.
in Boston area.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's what I said, that slide actually is a golden slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the same slide that will be presented on Tuesday night, the surrounding communities.
Yeah.
You've already collected the 1.3 million?
this was the bank.
Yeah, so we have that in our retained earnings.
And that was an amount that was banked as a result of water fees being higher than it would.
Or
normally.
Otherwise be,
Yeah, water rates, but also consumption. Consumption goes up and down. We don't
Well,
always,
The question is, how did you bank that
So I think that the
$1.3
rates were,
million?
yeah, the rates were set, this goes over a decade or so, to support not only the operation of the department, but also to pay for its capital program. And there was a particular threshold that was advised years ago by the Finance Committee. It's also, as a guidance, it's 25% of your annual operating expenses. So that level was established, and then that is what the Water Enterprise Fund had even years ago. We've worked with the finance team, and it's in very small print, but in the warrant, in the back in one of the appendices, you'll see a water model. It's almost too small to be understandable, but we've gone to great lengths over a period of 6 or 7 years to project and forecast out our operating costs, our capital costs, borrowing benefits, as well as using retained earnings
the retirement of existing debt.
and the retirement of existing debt.
But it is evident that that model of whatever the fraction is that you increase your income versus expenses has resulted in over maybe a 10-year period and a surplus of $1.3 million that was not earmarked for something else unless it was earmarked for this.
Well, it was earmarked, I think, for a variety of capital.
And some of the previous presentations have been burdened by the fact that there had to be borrowing for
Yes.
this. For this.
yeah.
No.
I think the previous presentations where they've stumbled is the long payback period. And the fact that even the long payback period was based on very incomplete accounting of the cost going into it, because you could just throw a dart in any direction and hit a missing number.
But the payback period is,
Yeah,
in a sense,
it's
an
still
overestimate because you already have the $1.3 million.
well,
right?
yeah, that's
We're just trying to compare. What is it gonna cost us to
Yeah,
go on the way we're doing?
yeah.
If we have to do it twice or 4 times a year versus how we would do it with
Yeah.
automatic meter reading. And the fact of the matter is, labor goes up like this and electronic technology doesn't cost much more.
yeah.
Okay, well, I guess
So-
there is a question in my mind as to how you gain in 12 years $1.3 million when the difference over 20 years is $1 million.
Take a look at the next page.
Okay? I mean, in a sense, I don't have to go any deeper than this, it seems to me.
Well,
But
there's something behind every one of these
Well,
figures.
fine, I take those as at face value. The
Well,
difference between
over a
this
20-year
20-year
period.
and
But
this
the-
20-year period is $1 million.
Right,
But the 1.3 is in the cost on this other side.
right. We're not trying to pay for it with future money. We have the money to pay for it
No,
right
it's
now.
not. Those are all
Oh.
operating costs.
Ah,
So this is a comparison of the costs, the operating costs that it would, if we have manual meter reading
Yes,
and read 4 times a year, what it would cost us to do that.
yes,
And then this is the cost of what, if we do AMR, what we'll actually have to spend.
operating costs.
Yeah.
Not including 1.3 million.
Actually, for the 20-year cost, we do start out with the hardware cost of 1.3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So that is factored in that page too.
So
I
it's
mean, I don't
so-
understand how that happens.
Total dollars
How that can
expended.
be for 12 years if the difference in 20 years is only $1 million. That's what I don't understand.
so,
I-
so,
Because, well, this involves 2 people and 2 trucks and,
okay, here, let me try to ask it a different
Yeah.
way.
Okay.
If that, so I think what Fred is saying is, if you're looking at the quarterly readings done manually, you're going to have a total cost over 20 years of 3.9 million.
Operating costs.
Total operating costs.
well,
And-
more than
okay.
it's total operating
Yeah.
costs, because that's kind of all it is operating
Yeah,
costs.
3.9 million.
Right,
And then okay, so and it's saying, okay, so I think what he's saying, Fred, is that the total operating cost, the comparative of that is 1.681. And then he adds the 1.3 million in to get to the 2.9. And the way he's presented it here, it looks like
That answers
it
my
looks
question.
that
That answers
it
my
looks
question.
like the 1.3 is on top of the 2.9.
So
Yeah.
I have a slightly different question. I mean, since you've kind of worked with many of these vendors, none of these vendors are giving software as a service model. I mean, there is an upfront cost that everybody gets choked,
Yeah.
basically, right? But more and more the trend is that, you don't buy it, you just rent it from us. Just like we are renting from cable box, cable services, phones and all that stuff. Isn't there a vendor? Because then this thing will go away and the cost will be always lower because we are eliminating the labor. And so,
But
do you
this
understand what I
quantifies
mean?
that
No,
in terms of,
no, it's a different business model for the supplier. It's that we don't buy it. Here we are buying the equipment upfront.
oh, I see.
You
I'm
don't
sorry.
buy it.
Sure.
It's a software as a service or technology as a service model. And many of these technology companies are going that way. And it helps us also to lower our upfront cost, and the sweat that town has also gets reduced. It
Yeah.
basically reduces into a monthly standard payment, thing. So I'm just curious that
Yeah,
nobody
yeah.
in this business is doing that.
Well, I think there's 2 components to it, is that, so we will have, meter reading software sitting on a computer on somebody's
Right.
desk,
Right.
and all the signals are gonna come in.
Right.
We'll pay an annual subscription for that and all of that. Then the other component of this that we really haven't talked about is that this will offer a customer portal. And you'll have the ability through your computer or through your phone.
No, I get all that.
That'll be
I
in
think
the
the
cloud.
initial cost is all these meters and all that we are in. I mean, that's where the initial 1.3 or whatever that cost is. Right? So, because we are purchasing it and then they maintain it.
And then
Are there vendors who really basically just rent it to you? So it's in another way,
Oh.
we are amortizing it over 10 or
Yeah.
12 years and paying a monthly payment.
Yeah.
you're just asking if there are people who are willing to finance it. That's a reasonable question if you don't have all the money to pay for it already.
It's finance is one way to understand what it is, but the software industry is going that way
Yeah.
today.
So
And
I'm
that's
not
why I was
familiar-
wondering whether they are doing
Yeah.
that.
Except the technology, that would be, and what, and it is a decent question. But basically, if you think about your cable box, what they do is they take a, $100 cable box that you would pay $200 for, and they give it to you, and then they charge you $10 a month over the course of 10 years for your
That
cable
works,
box. So
that
you
works for
paid
my
over-
phone too.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
paid for it. You paid for it multiple times over.
That's the new way of doing it because you don't have upfront cost.
That kind of business model is generally found in commodity software that has a wide market for this very similar thing.
You could be right,
This
although
is
my experience is
more
that.
like the software my company sells, which is to a very particular large kind of customer, a steel customer.
But I think the cable people is a perfect example of
My
exactly
phone,
that.
my iPhone, I mean, or not my phone, but somebody's iPhone. They're paying $10 per month for like 2 years or 3 years to pay it off. And it lowers everybody's
Yeah,
upfront cost.
So it's just the statement that if that question comes up, you should have an answer.
Yep, yeah.
Or even investigate with your vendors.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
do
and
they
all
have
the,
an
in all the
option?
installations I've been involved with, we haven't been
Because,
offered that.
correct, because a lot of these old technology companies, they haven't really migrated to the new business model, but I think that's happening.
It's happening, but it happens in the municipal area and the water area last.
Absolutely, I would agree with that, but maybe we will be the trendsetter and
Yeah.
this problem will go away then. Anyway, just
You can end up
curious.
paying more for it over
Yeah,
a
well,
long
you
time.
generally do. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same thing back when they used to give you, quote, your phone for free,
Right.
and, you know, it was included in the cost, and, you know, you pay for it 1.5 to 3 times over, because they continue charging you for the hardware costs long after the hardware is paid for. And so, you know, it's a gamble on how long they last. If you believe they're gonna last 20 years, you'll probably price it so that it's all paid for after 7, you know.
Yeah, I guess the other point on that model is if these guys are wrong, if their estimates are wrong, they may go bankrupt. I mean, there's the possibility, and we wouldn't have the equipment. Well, maybe we
Oh,
would
we
have the
will,
equipment.
they will leave and go.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay,
they can
right.
go
Good
bankrupt
point,
now
good point.
too.
That's a good point, yeah.
We are in trouble if they go
Okay,
bankrupt.
so I mean, I guess Uday's important point here is to have an answer for that sort of question.
Yeah. Yeah, and although I know, Fred, you said that this argument, I'll just offer a warning. The argument that we've already collected the money, therefore it doesn't cost anything, is going to turn off as many people as go, oh, okay, because basically they say, oh, hey, this is a tip for the schools. Just hold all the money and hide it in a pot somewhere, and then when you want to do something, say, hey, we've already taken the money from you anyway, you know, because that's building up a slush
It's a
fund.
thought that has occurred to all
Yeah.
three of us.
Yeah.
Right, and
Almost
there
immediately.
should be a ready answer for that question.
Yeah,
Although we have an enterprise fund that allows us to do that, and there's a purpose for this fund. The only question is, did we let it get too big?
Yes.
yeah, but you know, and particularly because you're coming to something that you're saying, hey, you know that thing you turned down 4 times because it was going to cost too much? We billed you for it already, so don't worry. So can we have it now? And you know, a lot of people. I don't know how many people are going to react that way, but I'm sure that's going to come up.
I think the answer to that is, you look at this chart and you say, well, yes, we could give it to you now, and that will cost the town the difference between these two lines, $1.3 million over 20 years. You want to pay that much extra? This is an opportunity to
Mike,
save money.
The point is,
Right? The question will be
whatever
asked.
your cost model is,
Right.
it has overcompensated for the amount of hardware or capital costs you have. I mean, that's what we're saying. And people will react to that. That's what we're
Yeah.
saying.
Different towns carry different amounts in their reserves. There are,
Tom's explanation that the FinCom wants a certain level of comfort is a good one. It happens that year after year, the unplanned for expenses do not rise to that level, and hence we accumulate.
Mhm.
And now we've accumulated, and we're ready to spend.
We
But still, it says that cost model, whatever it is a little bit too conservative. I think that we operate under a similar thing, right?
But, you know, Mike, you would know this and you wouldn't know this, but we've also we went through this in the past with OPEB funding, where $1.8 million was just kind of slushed into the OPEB without telling anybody, without voter approval, and the money was collected, and rather give it back to the town, they just put it into the OPEB fund where nobody could touch it. And so, that's one of the reasons there's sensitivity is there's been past cases of this where people felt that there were prudent decisions to be made that were not approved by the voters, and so they just went ahead and did it.
And even before that, I think it was like 15 years ago, there was an excess in the water enterprise fund, and it was used to balance the budget.
That was, at that point in time, we didn't have a
But
water
enterprise.
enterprise fund. It was a year or so after that the water enterprise fund was voted into existence.
To prevent
So
that.
the town didn't do that again.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, okay.
So, yeah.
So I think you've answered a lot of the questions. The math makes more sense this time.
Thank you for bringing that point up.
But yeah, I would kind of change that to, because I see where Fred was confused, because it looks like you go down
Yep.
to the 2.9 and you add the 1.3 on top of that.
Yeah, so we can actually flag that, and show that that's,
Yeah, I would kind of maybe move it between total operating and then put the one-time costs and then have the line saying total.
And the way you
plus.
get the 12 years is 12 over 20 is the same as the difference of the one line above.
Yeah, because you,
Versus the manual, 2.3.
yeah, because you really do want to show on the same line total operating costs like for like on so that you know that the 3.8 and the
Apples and
1.6
oranges.
it's on the same,
apples.
it's on
Yeah.
the same line.
Yeah, so
Labor
you
is
can look
labor,
in.
operating costs.
And then you
is
throw the one-time costs and then get to the total. So it's just easier for people to understand.
And will this be available? I mean, this is a lot of detail.
We're not planning to make this available except to FinCom, to you folks, and to our town offices.
I mean, it will probably be sufficient to say the payback with this.
Oh no,
Recouping the cost of this 1.3 million
I wonder-
for 12 years.
why wouldn't you give that out?
We have this as a slide.
The
You
bottom of the
do.
graph is a slide.
Well,
He's
well,
gonna talk to
No, but the actual number, why wouldn't you do that? I mean,
Well, it's going to be remarked on that the fine print is hard to see.
yeah, but I mean, have it prepared as a handout when people come in.
Maybe.
I mean,
I think Tom and Mike have a right point that those two graphs, maybe with a little bit more explanation,
it's,
will
yeah,
show. If you
This-
showed on there the 1.3 million as the starting point for the red line, that would be useful.
Mhm.
I mean,
yeah,
it's just,
Well, yeah, that's exactly where it is.
exactly, right, exactly. So just put a vertical line there that says 1.3 million upfront cost, and then mark on there 12, another vertical line at 12 years, saying that's where they cross. That would help, I think.
yeah.
to-
Yeah,
That would be sufficient, it seems to me.
given the history that a lot of the questions have come from, has the due diligence been done and all costs considered, anything you could do to counter that? But I also understand people don't like giving too much information, because then,
Well, we certainly have to have it ready.
Yeah.
We have to be able to say that we did do an operating cost, kind of life cycle analysis of all of the operating costs,
And the graph is the result of
and
it.
this is the result.
And
It's really
of course, there are
inadequate. It's
people,
kind of-
there are many people who don't want to look at the graphs either.
I had another line on the graph that I presented to the board, and they made me take it off because they wanted it simpler.
I deal with it every day where I have one officer who only wants to see a graph and the other who only wants to see the numbers.
But, you
Okay.
know, you could put an annotation on the graph, a brace simply saying this upfront cost is here.
Yep.
This is the savings out here, and this is the break-even point.
I mean, that really does speak
Yeah.
to the, I mean, it shows two numbers for those that want to only look at the numbers.
So tell us a little bit about your vote on the board. So you discussed this all and your board voted, and it wasn't unanimous. What were the issues?
I think the issues were that one reluctant member felt that the technology was changing so fast that we should wait until the reader, that the meter and the reading device were coupled with an automatic shutoff. Because when that device is finally sold, people could get write-off on their insurance policies. If you prove that you have an automatic shutoff.
Automatic shut-off,
Right.
so.
And that was kind of the basis of his thinking.
And
Who-
when,
and-
do you know?
we
when
wanted
that
to
would be
wait.
available or something like
We looked around a lot. There are pieces of the technology that are available from people who are selling it separately. Like you can buy this piece and put it into your plumbing system and it'll do the turn-off part. But the combination of a municipally furnished meter, data transmission device, and automatic shut-off to protect the household doesn't exist.
Yeah,
that? I mean, that's a perfectly good answer, it seems to me.
Yeah,
it would also, I think.
And it's invasive. You
you have
Yeah.
to cut that in.
You have
that's
to
the
do
thing.
something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and if somebody wanted to have that installed, but the idea that you could just sit in your office and say, "Have you paid your water bill?" Shut off.
Mm.
Yeah, that would turn as many people against you as.
I think so too.
Yeah.
The way it works here is we will look for these things. If we see them over a day's period, we will tell you.
Yeah.
But if it's true that you get an insurance adjustment because of that, then there may be people who are
Want to do it,
motivated
they
to
could
do
do it,
such a thing.
yeah.
They could.
They could have it
should-
installed themselves
should-
and,
It's cost prohibitive to do it for the whole town, but
Well, this board member felt that it would make the economics very attractive to the townspeople. I think he was concerned that we were, we've beaten our head against the wall 4 times. We need something really great
Yeah, right.
to
Well,
sell the town.
Then all the savings would go to individual homeowners, not to the town. So we're paying for savings by individual homeowners.
You know, to
That's
be-
not what the town is here for.
No.
It doesn't seem to me.
At least as long as they live in North Wayland.
We don't have trash collection, but we can do that first.
You get your
I
savings
mean,
through
the
chapter
experience
land.
from Western Wellesley would be very helpful, I think.
Yeah, if you could get just a couple anecdotes that says, we're satisfied, that would
How
go a
many
long
years
way
they have
as well.
implemented what they're, you can talk to their town engineer or, and.
yeah, like I said, I personally came from Boston, Framingham, and Medway,
Right.
where I was part of the installation of all those.
And how that has worked out, whether it has really, given them the cost savings that was promised.
That's perfectly fine, it seems to me.
Well, I think that's important, and it's a question to be asked, and people want to know the experience of other towns. If that information is available, we should probably equip John with at least an answer to the question if it doesn't get into his 10 minutes.
And,
Someone
yeah.
asks, has been the experience in the other town, and say, the Framingham water director says this, the West Wellesley water director says this.
Yeah, and I think, just to Fred's point, when you say the word anecdote, you do make some of the points about it would, have this benefit. And if you had concrete, real example, in January last year, Framingham had a case where, they did this and they were able to detect the leak, or where they did this and they found, saved a homeowner from having a flooded basement. If you had some of those examples that you could make concrete, it would make it stronger for the people. in the
Yeah, yeah.
audience.
I would also add, if you can get from, Western is very similar to in size, I think, as Wayland. If you get some of these financial numbers to verify what you're.
Well, they're just, they haven't even begun the install. So
They have
Weston's,
approved it.
they've approved it,
They've
but
gone
they
through
don't have
that
any
proposal
experience.
process and
They
they
haven't,
have the costs at least lined up, right? I mean, I'm saying from a financial perspective, how does that line up?
oh,
if they
the
can
number of
share.
households based upon.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was
price.
saying, if you give a comparison, that would be,
Yeah.
especially Western Wellesley are more similar to us.
Well, Wellesley's
Wellesley's a little
double our
bigger,
size,
but
and
Western is
Weston's half
similar.
our size.
Yeah.
Half our size.
But that's why per household, what is the cost? How many, how was the
That's true.
fixed cost? That's why I was trying to.
Presumably,
calculate that.
this 1.3 million has addressed that. They've
Yeah.
gotten ballpark numbers from.
Exactly, right, so per household, how much that works out, because that is scaled by the number of households.
I guess the Lexington view graphs show that.
It is like, if Lexington is a much bigger town, it is
Oh,
like
yeah,
that
it
cost
It
is
was a
about
higher price tag. for
5.9 or something was the price tag on
Yep.
that, but Lexington is a much bigger town.
Yeah, and if it scales the way it is.
Yeah, so few data points will
They build
actually
houses
help
on
the-
lots that are about 3 feet bigger than the house.
that. Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think it, you know, like you're saying, you're getting a lot of information here, and a
Yeah.
couple sentences would be probably sufficient.
Yeah.
We've had some examples.
You've learned that.
Okay, are we,
Yeah.
could we take a vote?
Yeah, so the question is what you want to vote on. I
Yes.
mean, so I'm not going to be at town meeting next week because I have to be in New York all week. But presumably you want to authorize someone to speak on behalf of the commission.
That's what I was
recommending.
hoping for.
Yeah,
And I was hoping for a 3-0 vote on
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
So-
So you can make a motion and we'll see how this goes.
Okay, we'll see how this goes. So I will move that the commission allows the chair to speak up in support of this motion at town meeting,
This article.
of this article, sorry.
Yeah.
Is there a
Okay.
second?
Go for it, second, yeah,
Yeah.
go for
Any
it.
more discussion?
No,
All those in favor?
I'll vote with you.
Okay, so 3-0.
All right,
So
thank
that
you for
will
the
be a
support.
substantial thing, and I will add a little bit of, explanation that this is a help to us as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important to say why it affects the commission,
Yeah.
because that's what I think recreation really wants to do.
Okay,
So you can't say that even Rick, who's opposed the previous 4 amendments.
I won't add that.
Rick, I appreciate all of the push that I get, because every time I get pushed, you know, I can go back and hollow
Yeah.
out the rotten core and something that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a great help to us, thank you.
All right, thank
All
you.
right.
Okay,
Thank
thanks
you.
a lot. Thanks, Robbie, we're done.
Oh, done.
Yep.
Adjourn. I move we
Oh, yeah,
adjourn.
was it supposed to adjourn? Adjourn?
Yep.
All those in favor? Aye,
Aye.
thank you.